Hey guys, welcome back to the middle of nowhere. We're going to be doing my May wrap up as we are now in the month of June. May was a little bit of a slower month, but we will be talking about the 10 books I did read. So it wasn't too bad. I still got through a few of them. It just felt really slow to me. I felt like I should be getting through some of the books faster than I did, but it is what it is. First off, we're going to start with a couple of digital reads, 3 digital reads for sure, maybe 4. I'm not going to go any particular order. I'll try to give you the rating as I go. Do you guys like me giving my star rating? Do not care, just want to hear my thoughts? Please let me know down in the comments down below. Love to hear from you guys. Give me a like and a subscribe. Yes, I am leaving the glasses on so you get Cyborg Jord. And please stay tuned because we will also be having my book of the month. It comes up at the end. You can skip to the end if you want just to see the book of the month. I can't stop you. But your phone, computer, if it just randomly shuts off, just know you shouldn't have clicked ahead. But in no particular order of what I read, let's get going. First off, we have the sequel to Red Rising. I read Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is a really great sequel to Red Rising. It's a lot different tone. It's a lot much darker, as I'm sure most of you have heard, but it was still a good solid read. The thing that I really loved about the book is that you still get the humanity of the character. He's still on a quest for revenge, but he has doubt. It was really cool to see because you don't see that a lot in a lot of books where they're seeking revenge for a lost loved one or becoming this focal point. But he has those doubts and really see the opposite side. He's still out on his quest of revenge, but it changes and the reason he fights changes. And it was a breath of fresh air to me, but really enjoyed it. Love seeing the Howlers in action again as they amp up this quest for revenge. If you haven't read Red Rising, can't say a whole lot yet, but very, very good series. Highly recommend if you're a fan of sci-fi, as well as a good tale of revenge. With that being said, I also read Morningstar. I did give Golden Sun 5 stars. It's probably more like a 4.5 for me, not a true 5. There were a couple of times that I disconnected from the story, just minorly, but overall I still really enjoyed it. I also read Morningstar by Pierce Brown, which it wraps up the first trilogy of the Red Rising. This was a fantastic end to where it goes. There were times that I could tell what was going to happen. There were times I was surprised, and it was very, very good to wrap this up. It's a very satisfying ending, and you can tell Pierce Brown grew as an author, grew as a writer, as a lot of these elements that he planted the seeds for, and he brings the characters. My favorite thing about Pierce Brown is the way that he weaves his characters together in their lives. They're not just black and white. They have gray, blue, any color in between, but he weaves them through. You like some of the bad guys for some of their decisions. You dislike some of the good guys for some of their decisions. And you can't really say they're good or bad. It's a true definition of gray, but I wouldn't say it's morally gray because they know what they're doing. They're fighting for what's right, but sometimes what they do isn't the greatest thing. I guess you could call that morally gray, but some of them truly feel bad about what they're doing, but understand that it is a necessary thing. But once again, you get great space battles, you get great hand-to-hand fighting. The plot is superb. and the twist at the end is well worth the wait and well worth the read. Highly recommend Red Rising Trilogy, and I will be continuing with the series. I'll maybe in July, maybe after the book 6 comes out, but I know I will be reading the last 3 books of that as well. All right, we're going to be talking about my monthly buddy read. As I've mentioned many times before, at the beginning of every month, I have a buddy read with a group of friends. Once again, if you guys are interested or want to know what book we are reading ahead of time, please reach out to me. But this month we read Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford or Richard S. Ford. This was a really fun read. It focuses on this family, and they have it's pretty much political versus religious in a way, and there's a lot of twists and turns. Each member of the family kind of goes on their own adventure, not by choice. They tend to get thrown into it by choices that have been made. Really great action throughout. It was a lot of fun. It was very much steampunk vibes, as well as some cool magic, and the fight scenes are superb. I think it's kind of an underrated story, but very, very highly recommend reading Engines of Empire. I will be going on to the sequel, which is Engines of Chaos, sometime in the near future. I can't promise when. Sometimes I don't know what I'm going to be reading. Still has a lot of those epic fantasy vibes with a lot of great twists. Overall, 4 stars. The other book I picked up via audio, I picked it up sometime last year. It was kind of included with the Audible catalog, I think. I can't remember. But I remembered some people recommending it, and I saw who it was narrated by, because Kevin Kemp, who also narrated the fantastically underwhelming tale of a dead wizard and an average bard, and he brought that story to life for me, did a fantastic job. I also know he narrates A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdullah, which I didn't listen to. I read that one physically, but I really enjoy Kevin Kemp as a narrator, and so I gave The Jigsaw Blade by Stevie Collier a chance. The covers looked really cool as well. It's this guy with a sword in front of a T-Rex, and those elements of the story are fantastic. The beginning of the book really, really hooked me. Really liked the character, liked how he was fascinated by these bizarre blades, as they're called, and their history, and they each have a history, and they choose their wielder, and they sync with them. And so these people, the characters throughout the story, prove their valor and are in line for gaining one of these bizarre blades. And I really liked that idea. And there's dinosaurs. And everybody loves dinosaurs. But let's be honest. But they are evil, and there's saber-toothed cats. And they use different names throughout it. And all those elements made it really cool. But there's a lot of potty humor that didn't land with me. It got kind of juvenile. Naming of private areas. It just was unnecessary for me. And it really jolted me out of the story, as well as there were some jumps that go from not knowing what was going on to kind of going this way and that way, and it just kind of felt a little disjointed towards the end. And a lot of that potty humor came into play there at the end, and that's kind of all the author focuses on for a couple chapters, and it just kind of ruined the story for me. I may continue with this series, I'm not sure. Once again, I know I really like Kevin Kemp as a narrator, and he does bring those characters to life, voices them incredibly well. But the story overall for The Jigsaw Blade, I gave 3 stars. I think that is all my non-physical books that I read this month. Only 4, I know, it's kind of weird, as I tend to be fairly even, but I guess I leaned more towards the physical reads this month. With that being said, let's jump into those. So I know I gave all of you, a list of books I was going to be reading through this month of May. I didn't do so well in keeping to that list, as you can probably already tell. But I kind of let my mood reading dictate more. And I'm going to take this time to have a serious conversation. Let's sit back, put your listening ears on. This is Serious Jord, and we're going from there. I love to review books. I really do. I love bringing that joy. I love communicating with the authors. I love doing all that type of stuff. Letting authors down by not being able to review their books because my mind isn't allowing me to connect into the books has become more of an issue as of late. And so I've kind of taken a step back of reviewing books. I will still accept them, especially if it calls to me. Just know that I might not be doing it in as timely of a manner as might be wished upon or wanted. I will still give you guys the reviews and stuff like that, though. My channel's not going anywhere. I'm still going to be reading books, but I'm going to clarify right now, I'm going to be reading more of what my mind chooses. I will still be doing the TBRs and that type of thing, but I want to bring back more of that joy of reading. And I hope you guys understand that. I know a lot of you do. I'll still be doing buddy reads and things like that. But I'm trying to kind of cut free from that commitment, as life already gives me stress. I don't need to bring the thing that relieves that stress, more stress into it, is kind of where I'm going. So I started letting my mind take over and doing more of the, oh, that sounds good, I want to read that instead. So I did that this month. Anyway, end of serious conversation, back to books. All that brought up that I picked up, because it was the month of May is Star Wars month to begin with. So I read Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. It's the introduction to Thrawn. It's a lot of fun. It's a continuation, the true continuation of the Star Wars saga, in my mind. I'd read it previously when I was young. I don't know how young. I'm older than I look, guys. That's all I'll say. But I read it a while ago. It was good to get back to it and reread it and remember Thrawn and a lot of those characters. And it's a really fun read. It's a very easy read. Not a lot of character work because you're kind of expected to know all the characters. The only one that you really get a ton of are a couple of really cool characters of the new smuggler boss. I can't remember his name right now, and Thrawn, they're both fantastic through this book. Really great beginning to it. I still give it 3.5 stars just because it's just kind of is what it is. It's above average, but it's not a 5-star read. It's just fun filler, good palate cleanser. The other book, this was a review copy kindly provided to me by the author Jeff McIntyre, and I read The Garden Gnome. So I did enjoy this read. I did have some issues with the pacing. Mainly at the beginning, every character you're introduced to gets a description and a backstory. And it kind of pulls you out of the story because you're getting all this information. And I know it helps you build the characters and things like that, but it felt like it was overly much. But the overall plot and idea is very, very intriguing. I liked the idea of magic not being in the world, and there's two groups, one that want to bring magic back and one that does not. And it is not as black and white as it sounds, and you don't know who to cheer for, which I found really refreshing and really interesting to read. I just wish I had more of that. There's a good third of the book that wasn't that throughout it, but it's still a really enjoyable read. It's different than what I thought. It's more of a whimsical fantasy. You don't get a lot of magical elements, but you could tell the author's building towards it. I'm eager to look forward to seeing where he goes. I really like the gnome idea and the protector stance of the gnome, especially where you think of these little critters that typically gnomes get kind of a bad rap. So it was kind of cool to see that. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I did give it 3 stars just because I kind of had a disconnect with the pacing. The other book that I picked up was this one. Was another one where I just kind of let the mood take me. I'd heard that it was a lot of fun, that it was a fun book, so I picked up. Well, the author did provide this book to me, but I picked it up to read this month, and that is The Crew by Sadir S. Samir. I'm sorry, I totally butchered the name. It is a lot of fun. It has a ragtag bunch of group that's on this weird quest and has a lot of great ideas. I had a lot of fun with parts of this book, and then there was some of the humor that didn't land with me personally. The biggest issue that I had were some of the names of the characters. It just didn't, I don't know, it didn't hit me right. And that might have been more the mood that I was in rather than the overall story. It's still a fun, crazy, like comic book-esque fantasy told in this world with the bones of gods that are a drug as they're inhaled, and it gives them powers, and yeah. So a lot of great ideas. The twists and turns and the overall plot is fantastic. Action is great. It is fun. It's fast paced, goes really quickly. But there is some humor that may or may not. It's kind of like the humor in Deadpool. And so if you're not in the mood to watch Deadpool, probably not in the mood to read this book. But if you're in the mood to watch Deadpool, you're in the mood to read this book. It also has a great audiobook that's out, and I kind of did both the physical and the audio together, so I could get through it pretty quickly. But recommend this book. I did give it 3 stars just because that humor and the names of the characters didn't land with me. Thriller. I did read a thriller for the month, and I did read The Gray Man, and I did watch the movie on Netflix, and the book is better than the movie. It's a pretty straightforward thriller. He's an assassin. Gets where his boss is kind of forced to put a hit out on his head, so he's fighting all these teams while he's trying to go save the people. Pretty typical plot. Really well done. It's high intensity, high action, and really liked that he's kind of alone through this whole novel. Doesn't have anybody else, couldn't rely on anybody else, gets stabbed in the back multiple times. The only issue I had is there were times that he's like very, very grievously injured, and he still like turns around and immediately goes. But it's a novel. It's not real. I know that. A lot of fun. The movie follows it fairly kind of close, like the overall ideas. But in the movie, I felt like the girl who's not in the novel was better than him, and I kind of felt like they made him weak in the movie. That's just my opinion. If you guys have seen the movie or read the book, let me know what your thoughts were. But overall, had fun. It was a 4-star read. Really enjoyed it. And going on. This next one, I am the #1 fan of H.C. Newell, aka Holly. It's not a real name. But I completed The Forbidden Realms. My thoughts on this one are top secret. Sorry, H.C. Newell. You will find out later. And that now brings us to the book of the month. So this is one I was struggling to connect with any read throughout the month, and I had this trilogy that I've wanted to read for a long time. It's by an author I really enjoy. And the book of the month for me was Age of Assassins by R.J. Barker. It immediately pulled me in. R.J. Barker has a way of writing. He doesn't like build you up to the story. You're just kind of thrown right in, like right into the plot. It's like the first part of the books are kind of missing, and you're just kind of thrown into the story, and hopefully you figure it out. It's kind of the sink or swim style of writing. This one follows Garden, who's a apprentice assassin his master is like the top assassin that's recognized out there. They kind of get blackmailed when they're on this quest, and they're they have to find the assassin who's after the heir to this kingdom, and they don't like the heir. But you just get Gerton's perspective as he goes through, and they immerse themselves in this world and try to uncover who the assassin is. Really fun, lots of intrigue. Love the world building that R.J. Barker does. It's really interesting, intriguing. He has religions in there. Like I said, he just kind of drops you into the worlds and lets you be immersed by it. So he doesn't go out of his way to explain. There's no over explanation. It's just, this is how the world is. And if you understand it, you do. If you don't, you could get a little bit lost. It might not be a style for everyone, but I love it. It's great. It pulls me in. I'm immediately immersed into it, and I want to know more. For example, and I love like the little things that he creates. Like, you find out that they have this, he calls them mounts in this book, and you hear a mount and like you try to think horse, but then you find out that you have these sprawling antlers that are very sharp. They're very aggressive animals with sharp teeth, where they can bite off arms or hands. They also have claws instead of like hooves, and it becomes a very central, like a very big piece of this story. But he never goes out and like really tells you what these creatures are or anything like that. He's just like, this is the mount, and talks about the antlers, and you get all these little tidbits throughout it as it goes along. I just really, really love it. Love the world building that he does, as well as the characters and the way that they're immersed into it and the way that they tell that story. I just really enjoy his writing style. But anyway, what you guys read in June or in May? We are in June now. Hopefully you had some good reads, that you found some favorites. Thank you guys for tuning in. It means the world to me. Just seeing the view number tick up. I truly am grateful for all of you, that you would tune in to me. I'm just kind of me. I'm just me. I'm nobody special. I'm nobody exciting. I just like to read books and talk about them with you guys and seeing your comments and everything that way. So thank you, especially if you've gotten through my musings, my ramblings up to this point without skipping through. You have my true heartfelt gratitude. As always, guys, happy reading and stay great.